So I've been getting a new life, sort of an independent life. With grandparents, and my first order of business was to teach mother and grandfather how to drive. The grandmother's the one that insisted on it because they couldn't go anywhere, unless it's on took them, And that's a way of getting to work too. But I mentioned the drugstore already. Excuse me. And that she had the most beautiful garden, and she kept that place up immaculately. And they were very protective of it. They wanted my life to be a whole lot better than it was at the time. So, and I really appreciated that. I told you about grandfather, getting up early every morning, 4 o'clock, rain or shine, and getting breakfast started and talking. I learned a lot, an awful lot, from him and his way of thinking. You never go anywhere, never be caught without a dime in your pocket, never. And he, of course, wouldn't have been dimes today, but they give me a lot of freedom too. Besides work, and I had the school and had the band, but let me tell you first about the differences in Chatham and that is Washington County High School and Citronelle High School. It was an awful rivalry there. As a matter of fact, we couldn't play each other in football because of fights, between the two. Because that Citronelle is more like a Washington County town than it was Mobile County town. But we had these oil people there. They were getting one well after another coming in. But I was there when Congressman Frank Boykin laid it out to the folks of Citronelle about the Citronelle oil field, which is one of the biggest at the time. And middle block here. So we had these boarders here, and of course I learned a lot from them too, just talking, and it was really something, and working for the first time really for someone besides my dad, and so I developed a style. It was do the band thing. Of course, I met this young man named Ariel Carmichael, who's a trumpet player, blind, and left-handed trumpet player, one of the best you'll ever hear in your lifetime. And then knew a guy by the name of Ken Bozeman, who was one of the best guitar players. He could play circles around Chet Atkins. And just come out of a Christian family playing guitar. He didn't have anyone to teach him, but he played. And so we just had a trio. I played sax, and Ariel played trumpet. We always played a little. Ken, he played guitar, but he didn't play real guitar, which I did a little bit, and of course Ariel did a little bit, and we managed and did our own thing, and chasing girls and just but with the difference being that when you went to the cafeteria at noon, and by the way, the old principal we used to have at Calvert was our principal. Then later came a principal who later on hired me to work out in Cowden, Georgia. He became a superintendent up there, and he came in and hired me out of Livingston after I came out of the Navy, And anyhow, it was a very worthwhile experience, and the deputy sheriff became the band director, and he'd like to hunt with us. So we'd go hunting. He'd bring his patrol car up there out of jurisdiction, of course. Alan Butler and Charles that's what's the English teacher's mother, the girl's brother. He had Swan, his last name. And then John, his brother John Swan, he wasn't allowed to go. He was too young. But he was a good friend too, but not just a friend of the family, you know. And I guess that's one reason why my grandmother, her mother wanted me to date her. And of course, my grandmother did too. And she owned my grandmother owned a laundry and cleaner business downtown, right by the jail. It's right by the bank. But it was a great experience being around my grandfather and of course my grandmother and her style, you know, her lifestyle was just immaculate, you know, just immaculate. A real lady. And my grandfather was a real gentleman. And he knew what he was doing, and she did too. And so they ran a good place. But they had all those boys, and they were all militarily involved, except Glenn, but he got involved and got out, but he involved too, you know, after he'd built a house, you know, and thought he was home free. Because he had tried to join the Army several times. They turned him down. And but when they did that, he went to work with a power company and had a good job. In other words, and made good money and knew his trade. And a beautiful home, had a pond on it. But anyhow, that being said, I stayed there till Christmas time because I was beginning to neglect my schoolwork. And my grandparents thought it best too that you know, I'd get away from that for a while. Anyhow, I went ahead and kept the job. Anyhow, worked on Saturdays, Fridays and Saturdays. You know, on that job, even when I went back to 7th Chapel. I never will forget the day I passed Dad. I was maybe doing about 80 miles an hour around a curve in 7th Chapel, you know. He let me have it. He was both barrels, you know, about driving so fast. And when I got my driver's license, I had to mention this. It's this point not in the crazy section, but I wanted to get a driver's license and driving a little bit too fast. You know, when I was backing up, I was backing in the spot here, and I was driving too fast. Everything I did do it too fast. He passed me. I don't know why, but he did. Because I've been driving. I was a highly skilled driver before I had to get the license. And because I drove in dump trucks and all kind of machinery, all kind of machinery. But that said, I went back to China and I started playing a lot of rock and roll. George came out of the Navy about that time, you know, too. And get discharged, and so I did a lot of stuff with him. Did a lot of playing with him, and R.L. at that time, R.L. and Ken Bozeman too. The three of us who played more or less was an adopted band, you know. And it was getting deeper and deeper in my blood, you know, music, and of course the aviation was still sort of deep within, you know. And I could have got a job at Atlanta, running at the Atlanta airport by the time I got out of there. Because I knew that much about scheduling and all that stuff, aircraft and running the place. Because Weaver's Airlines is the name of the school, you know. That was St. Louis, Missouri. But, by the way, I wound up doing that kind of work after I left Reynolds. I did some of that, and you know, recruiting for them. But anyhow, it was just something that happened that year was very life changing too. I found this dead man on the road, going to get a newspaper the day of my baccalaureate service, you know, and it was being held at the church in Chatham, but. I'm going to step back here again. the guy had been stabbed, and he just thought I was in the middle of the road. I went to get a newspaper to the post office and take back home, you know, before I went to back to art service. And I'll never forget that service, you know, what happened afterwards. G.H. Gavin came out because he wasn't back yet as the band director, but he did attend there and helped. And it's so good to see that you're doing this. You're going to school, you know, because you need that college education. Even if you want to be a ditch digger, you know, it's best to get that college education. That way you can better yourself. But then of course, I did graduate. We had a lot of, I won't get into that because I'm going to give it to you later, some of the stuff in there, you know, in the senior year. But we went out, and of course, there's another dream I had. I had Junior City's prom. I met this girl. I said met Mayor Margaret Dorman. You know, she got me hooked up with. That was her first cousin, and Gladys Howard. And we started doing some dating, and Robert, he didn't care about dating. He liked girls, but he just didn't take on the job of dating. You know, not at that time in his life, but he did. That's afterwards. But and of course, Daddy was really getting into it then, because the mill was going down, and he went down to he got a job in Mobile, but it just didn't pan out. And now they wound up working with him. They bought the mill that Turner bought the mill that Daddy spent the rest of his years in, you know, as consultant. Mm-hmm. And he was there for a long time too. And they became friends. He bought the place. Actually, they had bought the place where Dan lives. And he said the only person he sold to was Daddy. You know, so he tried to get me to buy it, and Barbara was against it. You know, going down to Alabama. So I didn't. And of course, I was offered a job in Mobile. You know, by Frank MacArthur. That was Ernest Allen's brother-in-law. Ernest Allen was my junior high school band director.
Yeah.
He offered me a job. By the way, he was the president of Delta State University. The last I knew, and but Frank was a good guy. He owed me this job. I'm the one that found this job for him, you know, and I also the year he was there, he was doing a lot of private teaching. You know, to keep up. He liked one college course. Finishing his degree, he'd already got all this other stuff done, but to get his doctorate. And anyhow, he went to Georgia and finished that off too, you know, and so I got to know Frank real well. And he was quite a good musician. He'd been assistant band director at Alabama, working on his doctorate, and under Colonel Butler. So he was pretty much in charge of that band before coming to Cobb County, Georgia, because it paid more money. Mm-hmm. And Ernest, by the way, was a good band director. I'm finding myself now getting out and pretty well finishes things up. Except what I want to tell you later, you know, in more detail. But I did take a job. I told you I had this dream I did, going in business. I knew enough about the mill, you know, going and building houses like my Uncle Rex did. The only thing, he'd build them to support and move out of them, you know, and sell them and go back and finish them up later. And he kept doing this whole life. But he worked at the shipyard too, Uncle Rex. That's one of Dad's brothers. Mm-hmm. But that's one of the things I was thinking about even getting married. I'd had a girlfriend before that. Her name was Mildred Knapp. That was one of Mary Margaret's other first cousins from the other side of the family. And Gladys was the first cousin on that side of the family too, you know. So you see the connection, you know. But I'd mentioned all these wrecks on the Highway 45. Okay, people getting killed on these bridge abutments, particularly racing up down that highway, you know, and Friday night at the football games, and I suspect drinking too. But Mildred had lost her boyfriend, you know, and, to one of these deaths. And I did, and I never forget a little note I wrote at one Christmas time, you know. So you got your little red wagon now, pull it, you know, something like that was bad. So I cut that deal off. And it wasn't many girls around there. Of course, so the Johnson and Glenn Dean was a friend. She was a little bit older than me, and that's a girl that died just before I got married. A very sad loss. And for some dates, and her mother and dad were. Barbara loved them to death, and they loved her. You know, we'd go by and visit every time we were in Alabama. You know, when after you had gone. I don't know whether you ever with us or not when we stopped there or not.
Mm-hmm.
But that was Glenn Dean's parents who had stopped there, and he had always let me deer hunt on his land. He's over all his lands, you know, as game warden, you know, and he owned a lot of that land too, you know. But by the way, while I'm on him, he was the one that delivered the news about Hawaii, the bombing Pearl Harbor. And I was on the neck of my mother, you know, we'd been fishing. It's just as vivid as today, just as vivid. December 7th, 1941, 2 years old. And so, and of course, he used to come by every day and drink coffee and talk and complain about his rheumatism or whatever else he might have had at a given time. But don't let me forget later on to talk about this rolling store and insurance salesmen and all these people that come by, and the doors always unlocked and never a lock on the door. And we'd all of us would run out of the house, you know, and get out and come in, get out and come in. And then, of course, we always called mother, called her my mama. I always called her my mama. My daddy, not my daddy, or my father, is my daddy. That was his name. And, but that being said, I mean, the music, just one more thing after high school, that I went out and bought this car. He had to have a car, you know, and that somehow the guy had rigged it up, and it went on the first round out, you know, and I left it. I went to college, but I'll tell you more about that when I start the college career, you know, how that started. And I'm through for the time being.
All right.